Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you that my book, Drummers on Drumming, is available now on Amazon as both a paperback and an ebook. Based on the Big Fat Five segment of this podcast, where I sit down with my favorite drummers to discuss the 5 records and stories that shaped their approach to the instrument, this book is packed with insights from the drummers who redefined how we think about the modern drum set. You can grab your copy now by checking the link in this episode's show notes or simply searching Drummers on Drumming on Amazon. So thank you for all the support, and now let's get into the show. All right, so welcome back to another episode of The Drum Panel, and we have the OG crew, essentially. We have Eric Urea and Chris Mazzarisi. So welcome back, boys.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, so the last few weeks of this podcast feed have been me reading excerpts from my book as kind of a best of 2024/2023. And so now, in that same line, because it's basically the new year, I want to do a little reflecting of the past year, looking ahead, not so much controversial topics, but just, us answer these prompts. And then listeners, I want you to kind of answer them yourselves as well, because it's supposed to be a little bit of an assessment, self-inventory, what we're doing, creating goals, and then we'll get into some stuff and we'll yell at each other and, disagree. But you guys ready?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right, Chris yawned, so that's great. Eric, I'll go with you first, and then we'll all answer this. What was your biggest breakthrough in your drumming or musical journey this past year?
Oh, man. For me, it was mostly on the tech side of things.
Okay.
I feel like drummers nowadays are expected to be able to run playback and, run the in-ear monitor rig. And I feel like this was the year where I fully feel really confident doing that sort of thing for people, particularly building playback setups in Ableton. It's not I got my paradiddles to 210 BPM answer.
I would have hated that answer if that was your answer, just so you know.
But I think it's a good platform to start 2025 on. So
that's a good way for drummers to make extra income too. You can work from the road. I mean, as long as if you can promote yourself as being really good on Ableton, you can just send me your stems. I'll help you MD. I think it's a huge asset for drummers to know. Huge asset for any band member to know that, especially if something goes wrong. And I mean, you got to go back to what makes you unfireable. Not so much hireable, but unfireable. If you're the dude in the band that is like, he's our Ableton whiz, it's just going to solidify you to be called back for that next gig. And I know Chris will agree to this. It's very important. What about you, Chris?
I think I just got a lot of stress off my back because I just found somebody who's really good at Ableton and
exactly
for the band this year. So
this is a huge year for you so far. Yeah,
huge year so far. No, I think one thing that I really took away from playing this year was not being such a slave to the click. I think in the past I've just focused so much on the click, and I definitely brought it down a little bit in my mix this year, and just had more fun playing and not thinking about the click so much. And I think I've touched upon this in some of the other episodes that I've done, is I just do stupid things while I'm playing live just to kind of amuse myself. And I think the stupider my live show looks and kind of the more fun that I have, the less I feel like I'm playing rigid and once again being a slave to the click. So I think having more fun this year playing, I think has actually made me a better live drummer, I hope. Kind of listening back to some of the recordings, I feel like that's kind of the case. I feel like it's a lot better of a flow in my playing this year. And I think that's another thing also that I did this year too, was I recorded a lot of my shows and listened back when I got back to the hotel. And I would basically had a super crappy little system where it was an old GoPro, but mostly I have like a little Aphex 4-channel headphone amp, and I was coming out of one of the channels into a Yamaha digital recorder, which actually sounds really good. So it's my exact mix, and I would go back to the Airbnb or hotel after the shows, and I would listen, and I'd kind of take some mental notes. Hey, coming out of that fill, I'm speeding up. Coming out of that fill, I'm slowing down. This crash cymbal's in an awkward spot. Maybe don't do this, maybe do that. So I was kind of self-critiquing a lot more, and then trying to retain that information, go back to the next show, hopefully, and, either improve, not make that mistake, or just try to be a better drummer in general and maybe have some more fun and maybe not be as hard on myself as I've been in the past. So,
was that Yamaha, the digital recorder, was it the E8010?
no, I think honestly, my dad gave this to me probably like 15 years ago. I'll show you guys on the screen here, but it's called a Pocket Tracks. I think it's to like record lectures in college.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll put the link in the show notes for everyone just so you don't feel left out. But Eric, which one do you use? You do something that you put on the bass drum that's not an E8010.
Yeah, I have a Zoom H2N, and it's on like a GoPro clip, and I find that knee spot gets a good picture of the whole kit.
Hell
So
yeah.
you have no mics plugged into that. That's actually just the recorder clamped on.
Yeah, it has like a little SD card in it, and I'll record straight into it. The signal's very hot, even with the gain all the way down.
Yeah,
but
this thing I literally go. It just has a like an 1/8 inch input into it, and I go right from my headphone amp, and it's like the perfect amount of everything. It just sounds clean. It doesn't sound processed. It just sounds like a clean recording.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's some plugin that's like replicates the Yamaha digital recorder, You know what I mean?
I buy it.
Sure. Yeah. Link in bio for our Amazon store.
I wait for you to yawn again. I don't know if I have an answer for that one because it's like, how specific do I want to go? But making fun of you joking that you were going to do the paradiddle ones, I've recently started taking lessons again, and my lame answer is that Daniel Glass, shout out to Daniel Glass, has really been kicking my hands ass, the ass of my hands. And he just really, I mean, it's been a few years. I think Bruce Becker, who both these guys I'm mentioning are Freddie Gruber method-leaning teachers. But Bruce Becker, maybe like 3 years ago, actually it was before the pandemic, was the last person I went to. So my hands have been kind of going AWOL for the last 4 or 5 years. But even just him looking at how my wrists were just me on the pad, just little things. And I'm finally learning traditional grip. For the first time, I'm actually leaning into it. And so it's been really fun, but also like I feel like the worst drummer in the world right now.
I love that about having a teacher, though, is just every time I feel overly confident, I'm like, okay, it's time to schedule a lesson,
Yeah.
And just kind of bring myself down to be like, oh, yeah, there's still just an insane amount of stuff to learn. We're never done.
What performance, session, or project are you most proud of from this year and why? I'll go first. So there's this band called Hoko that I initially was covering for Gunnar Olsen, and he was unable to make some recording sessions in November, so I was asked to go kind of work on some songs with them, and it's been the first time in a while that I don't know how much I should go into detail, but basically they have a chance to just start creatively from scratch, if you will. And so they went into this with me included in the writing session, like we're just going to all write. It's not like they're telling me what to do. Let's just like be creative together. Just there's no rules. And we're in the lead singer's house in Pennsylvania for about 2 weeks, and his wife went and moved in with his parents for a few weeks just to graciously give us the house to just tear apart and have like the drum section, the synth section, the guitar section, everything was all plugged in, so we would just jam and we would just push record and record everything so we could go from instrument to instrument. And it was the first time in a long time where it was just there's no pressure, no agenda other than let's just try and be creative, and it was the most fun I've had in a long, long, long time.
That's awesome. That sounds like the dream.
It is. It was great. And it reminded me that, oh yeah, I do like the drums, because obviously I question that every other day. Like, what the hell am I doing? So, but yeah.
That sounds like very like 90s vibe of the way records were made and bands were made. And I don't want to go off into a tangent, but actually I've been seeing this trend on TikTok lately where there's young kids like playing in their garages, and they're just playing instruments and just playing Nirvana songs and playing original songs. And it's like a very alternative 90s throwback vibe where kids are actually learning instruments again and like jamming. So it's really cool and refreshing to see. So that's what you kind of said, kind of reminded me what's going on right now on TikTok.
Well, it's also fun too when after like the second or third day, we were all really comfortable with each other and around each other, because I had done some things that they maybe noticed that was cool. So they're like, okay, Ben's a good drummer. And then like, he did something. I'm like, oh, he's awesome. Whatever. So we all kind of like showed each other like, hey, we're all supposed to be here, And so by the third day, I would feel safe enough to just try weird things. And that's such a beautiful spot that when you're playing with people for the first time, you're hired to just come in to work on a record, just to be the drummer in the session. It's hard to make those choices, because you kind of want to be safe or cater to what you think they'll appreciate. And then that's rarely does like something new come from that, And I'm kind of talking out of my ass because obviously some great records are made the opposite of what I'm saying right now, but that's just what I felt, and it felt really awesome. So I can stop talking about it. Sorry. People are like, we get it, Ben. You had a good 2 weeks in November.
Well, I was going to say, what a cool thing to do, like as an adult in like a professional setting. It's like, it's such a special thing when you do it as a kid, but like you're playing on your like $30 guitar and you don't have any professional recording. So now to like know what you're doing and to have like a recording session and be able to go back and listen and pick it apart. That's such like a special thing to add to something that's like really old school, early in our musical development.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what were you guys thinking? I know I took up half an hour of the show, but
I've been working with this Dominican hardcore band La Armada for a few years, and this is the first year I've actually started writing with them. To be honest, this is not a genre that I'm not super well versed in. I'm pretty new to it. I typically don't play a lot of really heavy music. I did maybe when I was a kid, but especially like this more punk rock leaning hardcore heavy is totally foreign to me. And they're a little bit progressive too. So it's like, it was interesting to be in a room and like be encouraged to stretch out a little bit. I'm always trying to simplify and make things really clean and legible. And it was interesting to be in a recording session with these guys and recording the first songs with them that I'm a part of. And they're asking for more. And I was like, oh, okay, let's go. I can let loose. So I did a couple songs with them this year. One of them is already out, and then there'll be another one out in a few months.
Nice. Well, is it so it's out and we can link it in the show notes?
Yeah. 500 Años by La Armada.
I mean, sometimes there's something to be said that sometimes it's better if you don't know a genre. Because again, going back to like, that's when new shit's made. Like you would do stuff that maybe a drummer who's well versed in it would do the more, the generic options 1, 2, 3, or 4, but you're doing like 10, 11, 12, 13,
Yeah.
So
working backwards.
Who knows? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, not even like in like how good they are, but just like
sure.
You would think of things because from your content, it's just, that's how music's made.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually did not get into the studio at all last year. It's actually been quite a long time since I played in the studio. I think my playing highlight for the year was our headlining tour for the band I play for at the beginning of the year. That was a cool moment for us because we definitely hit back some of the cities that we've played since the start of the band, and it's cool to just see some of the rooms building and have real people come out, and the idea of us bothering friends to come out has kind of gone away, and it's kind of quite the opposite where we don't want our friends to show up because we don't have any guest list spots anymore.
Yeah.
So it's been a cool year with that. Just it's nice to see the hard work and all the nonsense that we're doing is building, and our socials are building, and the live business is building, and I feel like we're coming to a spot where we're really trying to find our sound now, and I think it's kind of there and kind of honing in on it. So we're excited for this year to do a couple of tours and put a new record out hopefully by the end of the year. And I should actually be getting into the studio this year to record some drums for the record. So,
fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is one unexpected lesson you learned about yourself as a musician this year?
These are hard, man.
I'm sorry. I know
No,
you
I love
guys.
it. That's great. It's great.
I'll go. And I don't know. This is a moment in time, for me. But I noticed that when Cannons unfortunately had to drop out of certain stuff because they want to work on a new record, I was like, okay, should I just fill the time immediately with going back on tour and take gigs that were not as good paid just because that's how I feel relevant? I mean, not to quote Dawes, but what is it? When I'm standing still, I seem to disappear, and it's I didn't want to do that. And so I've just been really focusing on things to do at home. And like future income stuff and setting myself up for success that way. And I realized that I'm just as happy just working from home, getting normal sleep, going to the gym at normal times, getting like cooking in my own kitchen. And it was nice that I feel fulfilled when I'm not just on the road, which was not necessarily an unexpected lesson I learned as a musician, but it just made me feel happy that I think I'm starting to appreciate the finite passion that drums are, and I'm trying to really be picky with what I choose to do on the road and who I choose to go out with, because I'm just as happy staying home working on other things. So it's a good thing, if I articulated that well enough.
I love that. I think, I can totally relate to that, where I used to hear drummers talk about like how much they get burned out on the road. And I was always like, I could never. Mm-hmm. But now I so appreciate and value all the time that I get to be at home with family, which isn't to say that I don't love being on the road, but it's just, you gain a new appreciation.
Yeah.
I dread leaving up until the day I leave, and then once I'm there, I'm having fun. But
yeah,
I don't ever want to leave my house ever.
Well, you have 2 young kids, and I get it, man. I get it.
I think the lesson that I learned this year is that being a drummer and getting a little bit older, that my body is not immune to kind of breaking down, which is kind of a bummer. This year, I learned I have a torn meniscus on my kick drum foot, my right foot, so it's been a year of definitely taking better care of myself physically, being more mindful how I lift things, and maybe asking somebody for help instead of trying to lift road cases by myself and push things by myself, wearing a knee brace for most of the year to make sure I was okay. And just, simple things like making sure I slept better. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe don't overdose so much on coffee this year. So, yeah, I think that was definitely a lesson that I learned from this year for myself as being a musician, that unfortunately I'm not immortal. Yeah, I can definitely succumb to the hardship of touring and the wear and tear of touring, and definitely needed to take better care of myself. So,
all right, let's get into a geeky one. What is one skill or technique that you're committed to mastering in 2025?
Gospel chops. I'm totally kidding. I don't care.
Hey, I don't know. That's gospel chops are fucking fun, dude.
Gospel chops are something I tried to learn 10 years ago. Still been trying to learn. I still can't play them. I've given up. Not to go on the Dave Eatlich tangent here, but I think the burying the bass drum beater is something I'm really striving this year for.
He's convinced you, huh?
He's convinced me, yeah. Yeah, I definitely noticed a difference in sound. I was trying to work on it. It's hard to like work on that during a live show, so I definitely got to get into more practice this year and try to work on it.
I mean, have you felt that your kick drum sound or stuff has suffered by burying the beater, or is it just because okay?
Well, I also switched in 2024. I switched from a 22 to a 20, which is the first time I've ever done that. Mm-hmm. So I think by not burying the beater, kind of makes, in my ears anyway, makes it sound more like a 22 when I'm not burying. When I'm burying, it definitely sounds smaller.
Okay.
So I think the 20. I mean, I could be totally imagining this and could be 100% incorrect, and I'm sure people can yell at me in the comments and say I'm an idiot, but I think a 20 inch is less forgiving when you're burying the beater. That's it.
So Chris jokingly said gospel chops, but I think I'm actually going to say gospel chops.
That's why I thought he was serious. It's not a bad answer.
It's not if I was a good drummer. A great answer. I suck.
Oh, stop. But I recently I filled in last minute on this cover gig. Geez, it was a few months ago. And Chicago has a really killer gospel musician scene. I went into this gig on probably 8 hours notice. I did all the prep work that I could do. And I'm used to playing cover gigs, and normally it's, pretty straightforward, keep it like the record. And this was like, I feel like there's few moments where you're good enough of a musician to know exactly how bad you did on the gig. And like I almost wish I was worse so I didn't know how bad I did. But it was such a weird feeling, because typically I'm very much of the mindset to like, all right, don't overplay. And this was like the first time I could actively feel myself losing a gig because I'm not overplaying. It was like,
you're like Marty
it was
McFly.
It was wild.
Just slowly disappearing.
Yeah, it was literally, I literally felt like that. I was like, wow, I'm watching this slip right out of my hands. But honestly, it was a really cool experience because so many times I'll do a gig like that and just feel totally comfortable and fine and like I'm not worried. And this was like the first time in a while where I just absolutely did not feel good. And I went to bed and I couldn't sleep, and it was, and it's not like a huge loss. It's not something that I typically will do or even typically want to do. But it was just like a really eye-opening experience to be like, wow, there's this whole other world that I'm just kind of neglecting. I genuinely want to get a better understanding of what that is. Not necessarily, sure, there's like the sort of chops aspect of it where you play fast and you play a lot of notes, but there's like just the interpretation aspect of like where you're catching the hits and how you're setting up hits is just, it's different than my typical pop rock brain comprehends. It was great, but also horrifying experience for me. So that's my project, something to get better at for 2025.
Yeah, besides what Daniel Glass teaches me with my hands, I think the biggest thing I want to do is learn the heel, and we're getting really geeky here, but the heel toe technique on the kick drum. And so I have a buddy who is a huge Bonham fan, and I was over at his house and he had his drum set up, and we were just going over like the good times, bad times. If you don't know, that's basically he's doing like da 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 da, but with the kick drum it's just the second and the third. Anyways, and I was doing the slide technique the whole time, which is you push down, kind of lift up, and slide your toes forward and have the second hit there. But anyways, my buddy was like, dude, yeah, but that's, you tense up so quickly there. So if you do the heel toe, which is drop kind of your heel, and then you just drop your toe after that, it's a lot easier, and you can do that more consistently over a long period of time. But it's so counterintuitive because you're like putting your heel down for that first hit as opposed to stomping your foot. And it's been my obsession the last week, and it's been really fun. And once you start to get, I'm to the point where I can kind of move around the kit with it. But it really is, my leg is so much more relaxed because it's just, I would say it's the molar of the feet. You're hitting down, and then as you pick back up, you're getting that second hit. With the heel toe, you're doing like foot down, and then as you lay your toe down, almost as if to go back up to like the getting ready to hit another kick drum thing, that's how you get that hit. It's ba-bum, ba-bum. So, I mean, I'm sure I'm mansplaining to everyone that knows the heel toe, but it's just something that was so, I'd never done it. And I've always heard about it. I was like, oh, metal drummers do it. That's how they do like the 230 BPM with the whatever. But as a single player, my buddy, or single pedal player, my buddy was like, no, dude, that's how Bonham did it. Which, again, to quote Chris, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments saying like that's not how he did it, but that is what I'm obsessing about over this year. This one you can get as specific as you want. Was there a specific piece of gear or tool that significantly impacted your playing this year? I can go first for a nice little shameless plug, but I mean it for Big Fat Snare Drum, is the cow moo heads. Speaking of that same session that I did back in November, I didn't know what kind of kit we were going to do. I didn't know what vibe we were going to do. It ended up being this old Slingerling kit that was beautiful, but knowing that I could have just rolled up the cow moos or put them as half moons or all the way and just different mic configurations, the vibe we were going for, I never had to try too hard to get a sound. They're amazing, and they're super cheap, and they're super convenient. You can roll them up and put them in anything. So yeah, the cow moo heads for sure.
All right, I got one. So for me, and again, it's not a direct drumming thing, but I recently just picked up one of those $60 Behringer P2, I think it is, headphone amps. And I bring it to every gig, and I just have an XLR and a 1/4 inch, and I just use the pass-through on whatever stage monitor is next to me, and I just run my own in-ears for every show now. And it has totally changed the game.
Is it just a volume knob?
Yeah, it's just a volume knob. That's it. So I would still, like, I don't even bother with telling the front of house person or, the monitor mix person, if there is one, just to keep it easy. I'm just using the pass through on the monitor, and I mix my monitor the same as I normally would, and it's pumping directly into my ears. So yeah, that's been such a game changer to have that, especially for like fly dates or bands that don't run like the full in-ear monitor rig. I need to get the bigger one so I can maybe sneak a click track in the other input or something. But
Yeah.
plus I like the fact that little thing I slip it in my stick bag and it just lives there. So
Is it the one that clips on the back of your? It's like it looks like almost like a vape. It's like
yeah, totally.
4 inches. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
It's also a vape too. So
Mine is my vape. Actually, if I could switch now.
Oh, nice.
What about you, Chris?
I did something this year that I swore I wouldn't do ever again. Is I added a splash symbol to my setup, and I'm pretty sure I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I'm pretty sure Zildjian sent me the wrong splash symbol that I asked for. But it turned out that I really liked it. I don't even know what it is. It's like an A custom with the holes in it. I don't know. It sounds great. And I mean, I've literally played Two Crashes Ride Hats for, I don't even know, 20 plus years. And I had an old A splash that it completely broke off the bell. I never replaced it. That was literally 20 years ago. So, there was a couple of spots in the songs where I'm like, let me just throw a splash in there. It could be kind of cool. So I got that. And then I'm actually excited about a piece of gear that I bought today, funny enough, is on Facebook Marketplace. Somebody was selling a set of 12-inch PA speakers. And I bought a set of, I mean, they're not great. They're Carvins. I mean, whatever. But I bought a set of two 12-inch PA speakers, and the guy swears they both work fine, for $20. So what I'm going to do with one of the speakers is I have a Crown Power Amp and like a little rack mixer, is I'm actually going to, instead of doing like a butt kicker or the Porters and Davy vibe, I'm just going to run literally a small monitor next to me, just right up against my stool, and just have kick drum coming through it. So I'm going to do that for the live show, just to get that feel of like a sub underneath me. I might actually take this PA speaker and like hack it up too and pull the tweeter out of it and just pull the electronics out of it and just go right into the 12-inch and just have that right under me. So cut the box up to make it as light as possible.
That's so awesome.
So I'm excited about that. So.
I need to see photos of the result. That sounds incredible.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't make the news that I set the stage on fire.
Yeah. Don't pull a great white.
Yeah. I mean, even if you make the news, it's these 24-hour cycles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm excited about that. Let's see. Hopefully the guy doesn't rob me. I don't know. I have a weird feeling, but we'll see. Signing off is my last podcast.
Live stream it on the podcast when you go to pick it up.
This one is my own. My own controversial opinion. I don't think anyone should spend more than $100 on a stack. I'm sort of anti-stack in general, but it breaks my soul to know that there's like a cymbal maker hand hammering away on their cymbals, and then it's just going to get stacked on top of another cymbal and never be what it was designed to be. I feel like you can just use broken cymbals or any combination of thrift store. There's cheaper options where you can get a perfectly more than acceptable stack sound without spending an insane amount of money on it.
Okay, so you're anti-stack because out of principle, not out of sound.
Yeah, I can, even though I don't use stacks ever, I can appreciate that there is a practical application for the sound. Yes. But I don't think we need to be using really nice cymbals for it. I don't think no one needs to be spending $400 to.
That's how much they are, really nice. I never even looked at them.
Some of them, yeah, they can be crazy.
Chris, what do you feel about stacks?
I would never use them. I don't care. Yeah, I don't. It's not something.
Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not interested in it at all. Like I said, it took me 20 years to get a splash cymbal, so I'll probably be dead before I use a stack.
I mean, I've always been kind of anti-flavor cymbal, so no stacks, splashes, chinas for a while. But I know deep down that if I bought a splash cymbal and probably a china, I'd be so happy. Before I know it, I had 18 splashes. Yeah, it'd be bad. I just know it's a slippery slope for me. Stacks.
It is a very slippery slope. If I had a tech, I'd probably have all the stuff. Be like, give me 6 chinas. I want the corn china right in the middle of my head. I want 6 stacks, 4 splash cymbals, 6 bass drums.
I always like the 2 chinas really up high on your right and left. That's the vibe. But never a stack. It will not be a stack. I feel like I get so many. Every time I bring this up, people are just like, how dare you?
Yeah, I just never use it because I know people do it for like little flourishes between the hi-hat and then use it as a backbeats, like claps and stuff. But I've just never really, I don't know. I guess I don't have an opinion because I know that Benny Greb has some cool stack stuff that he does, and I think his sounds so cool. I mean, anything he does sounds cool, but yeah, all the bands that I've had where we need clap stuff, I just use an electronic kit or electronic elements to make it a hybrid kit, but I don't want to take up real estate on my kit where it can only be one sound. I mean, granted, I guess everything is that, but like a clap or a stack is just like an extra piece of hardware I have to take and blah, blah, blah. It can only work for 2% of the set. It's just not worth it to me.
Well, I do think, in fairness, everything else on the kit, you can get more than one sound. A stack is truly just one sound.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
like
I thought you were going to disagree with me, but you kind of
no.
said the same. Okay, cool.
No, I agree.
That's me
like,
fucking.
Because like a ride
pissed.
cymbal, you get, crash, ride, bell, but like you're not going to use the bow of a stack. It's there just to do the one thing.
Not with that attitude. Jeez. How about this? Not every drummer is inspired by Buddy Rich. And I'll be the first to admit I haven't listened to his entire catalog. But he's just one of those drummers that I don't know. I mean, like, Birdland's cool. I really am showing how little I listen to him. I just don't. I respect his singles and what he did for the industry and kind of putting drummers in the forefront. But it's just a lot about his lore and the way he treated people, and that in addition to me just not feeling like, I mean, I would listen to Elvin all day. That, gets stick clicks all over the place, and it's like almost dynamically doesn't make sense sometimes, than some guy that's doing like the jazz version of blast beats, But yeah,
I agree with this one. Buddy Rich doesn't really do much for me either, and honestly, Gene Krupa's always been my guy. Like, if we're gonna do the showman thing,
Sure.
Gene Krupa's like the happiest dude on the planet.
Well, he was also on heroin, but,
Well, yeah.
but
I mean, but who,
other than that,
who wasn't, right?
What happens if Buddy Rich had stacks? What do you think about that?
I heard that Buddy Rich invented stacks.
that actually is true.
Yeah, that is true.
Wait, can I do like a peeve, drum peeve situation here?
Please.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
Peeves, the Peeve Nut Gallery. I don't know.
Oh, that's terrible. That's my peeve. Is your face in that comment?
Yeah, that was
All right,
that
thanks
was
for being on the show, guys. That's all we have for this year.
This is a good one. Both you guys have probably experienced this before too. When you play a show, you may or may not be the headliner, but you're like playing with other bands, maybe local bands, and another drummer will walk up to you and be like, "Hey, I forgot so and so at home. Can I borrow yours?" I've literally had a drummer walk up to me before and be like, "Hey, I forgot my drum rug at home. Can I borrow yours? Why my drums were set up?" I'm like, "Are you crazy? Do you want me to take my drums apart so I can let you borrow my rug?" And he was like, "Yes." And I said,
Yeah, it's all about
no.
how you approach it. If
Yeah,
someone was
yes.
like, "Dude, I am so fucking sorry. Like, can I use your hi-hat clutch?" then I'd be like, "Dude, of course."
Yeah, I mean, I've
But
let
yeah,
people do
it's
stuff.
like,
Yeah.
exactly.
I had someone come up to me. It was the singer of the band before the show, and he said, "Can our drummer use your drums? His drums are in shambles." Shambles. Oh, that instills so much confidence in me to
How
let you
would-
use my drums.
Is that a
Yeah.
custom brand in shambles?
Yeah, in shambles.
Were they actually there? They probably weren't even there.
They weren't even there yet. They hadn't left yet, apparently. So it was like a preemptive, hey, our drummer basically doesn't want to bring his kit. It's in shambles. I just immediately picture all the Craigslist postings of drum kits with the toms at like insane
Well, then,
angles.
depending on what level you're at with whenever this happened to you, like what level you're at in the community as a drummer, it's like you don't want to be known as like, well, no, and then it's like, hey man, it's all community, like everyone shares. It's hard to. I mean, at this point, I think all of us would be like, no,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
a younger
yeah.
drummer, yeah.
Totally.
I mean, when I first moved to LA, I had to. Kind of similar, but I had to, when I got there, they're like, "Hey, do you mind if we share drum sets?" And I had this like Tequila Sunrise, like Vista Light, and it was like, yeah, and I thought that we were going to play later from what I thought, and I was like, sure, whatever, just use your cymbals and, breakables essentially. And then they ended up switching it around to where I was the second of the four bands, And so I had to just hang out at the Roxy until like 1:30 a.m. while the other bands just played my drum set. And it sucked.
I have a story where I had to ask somebody to use their drum set, and it was probably one of the most embarrassing moments for me. I don't know if we have time to do this
please.
story.
Yeah.
So I played in a pop punk band on Long Island many years ago, and a friend of ours, this guy Jed, he was somehow involved in the Ramones camp. And the Ramones every year put on this like benefit. I don't think they do it anymore, but they used to do this benefit, I guess, for the whatever remaining family members of the Ramones. And the bill was like super, super stacked. And this guy Jed was a musician also, and he got us to be his backing band. And I can't remember the Ramones song we played. We played like 3 Ramones songs, and we opened the show. I was told that don't bring anything except cymbals and sticks and whatever. And you're going to be able to use the house kit. I advanced it. This is maybe like 15, 20 years ago. So I advanced it with the house kit. Great.
This is with Bandcamp?
This is with Bandcamp, one of my old like pop punk bands. And so get to the venue. We're waiting around. Like the Ramones tribute band that's playing and closing the show, they're sound checking right now. And then we were supposed to get up to sound check, and the house kit was being used by the Ramones tribute drummer, whoever it was, and he decided that he was not going to let me use the kit for whatever reason. He said he had his settings are ready to go, and I was like, so what am I supposed to play? And the production manager of the show, he's like, oh, go ask Sonic Youth if he can use their drum set. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And the guy's like, well, you don't have a drum set to play then. And so I had to walk up to the Sonic Youth drummer, and this is like, I mean, they're still a massive band, but they were like really massive back then. And I walked up to him and I was like, hey man, this is so embarrassing. I don't want to ask you this question, but the production manager told me to come talk to you. I don't have a drum set here. And I explained the situation to him, and he was totally cool about it. He's like, look man, he's like, I actually had these drums like cartaged in. He's like, it's my vintage like Ludwig kit. He's like, you're not playing them. And I'm like, totally get it. So then I had to go back to the production manager and be like, dude, I'm playing the house kit. But it was so embarrassing. Like I had to be that douchey person and go up to Sonic Youth and be like, hey, can I borrow your drums for the show?
Wow. It's Steve Shelley. Is that his name?
I think that sounds
drummer?
right,
Yeah.
it was just like
such a good drummer too.
It was so I could still see I mean, like I keep saying, it was 20 years ago. I could still see like all of Sonic Youth was like in this little cubby off to the side of the stage, like in the venue, getting ready to, they were in a sound check also at some point, and I had to walk up to Sonic Youth and be like, can I borrow your drums?
Oh God.
Oh man.
Yeah, I would have said no too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, I feel like also too, that's like a side pet peeve. That's like a pet peeve, like part B, section B, is that anytime I've ever let anybody use my drums in any situation, I've always gotten burned. And so it's always been like friends too, where like somebody will give like my rack tom like severe like snare drum rash. Like there'll be a gash in the finish of my drum, or like I remember one time I played with this band. They were a New York band called Stage. They're a really good band, and we played like CBGBs with them, and I geared share with the drummer, brand new, and this is before I had any like drumhead deal, so I was paying like retail prices for it. I bought a brand new EMAD head for that show, and the drummer of that band who played before us had his kick drum beater like lower than the impact pad and put a huge dent in my brand new head. Brand new, like literally no shows on it. And I told him about it, and he was just like, oh man, sorry about that. I'm like, dude, are you gonna pay for it? And he did not pay for it. So I've been burned too many times. Nobody touches my stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We actually, on the previous conversation when I was talking about the headlining Winnetka tour we did this year, I don't know how this happened, but we had 2 different openers on the tour. We had a West Coast opener and an East Coast opener, and advancing the shows with their production manager and tour manager, both bands were somehow told that they were using my drums on the tour. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm sure you're very lovely people. No, I'm not unpatching my drum kit every night so you can use it. I felt bad. Like, I don't know where the misinformation, we still don't know where the misinformation came from, but I was like, nobody's ever agreed to that. I would never agree to that. I would sooner buy you guys a drum set than let you use my drum set.
They're like, that works too, actually.
Not that, not that it's like my prized possession and then I'm like, so it's something that's like so close to my heart, but I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with people breaking my stuff or moving my stuff. It's just, you want to get up there and play a show. You don't want to be messing around with things.
I've definitely got one.
Please.
It drives me crazy when a drummer, or really any musician for that matter, doesn't know how to do a proper sound check. Drives me bananas.
All right, so go through the steps of a proper sound check.
All right, when front of house is like, all right, can I hear the kick drum? And then it's just full double bass at 180. Just that's not that's not it. Please don't do that. Can I hear snare? And then it's just a marching snare solo. Don't do that. Just a nice full hit on each drum, whatever the engineer asks for, consistently until he stops asking for it. When there's other band members, the guitarist is playing Sweet Child of Mine and the drummer's sound checking, I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is happening? It gives me so much anxiety. I can't handle it. I usually have to leave the room.
With bands being digital at this point, a sound check should literally take 15 minutes.
Oh,
that's all,
for sure.
That's all we take. We're 15 minutes, and we're off the
Yeah.
stage, and then you go to the bathroom, you get something to eat, and go hang out.
Step 7, bathroom. And that's the show. If you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, so it'll get bigger and better, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'll be an OG listener that can brag to all your friends. Anyways, why don't you go and check us out at bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on all the socials. Just search for Big Fat Snare Drum and you will find us. The show is edited in part using iZotope RX Audio Editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at iZotope.com. And thanks again to Gunnar Olsen for the theme music. Bye!